Ladies and gentlemen, I have just been informed, unfortunately, of some very bad news. Your vacation, well, it's over. It's time to clock in for the Deadlock night shift for the very first one. We are finally back, and I'm going to be your host here throughout the night, Jason Kaplan, joined by two gentlemen, which I haven't seen your faces in such a long time. We got DDK, we got ZP. ZP, how you been, man? What you been up to in these last, what feels like a year since we've been here on air?
You know, it hasn't been as long as you might think, but it has felt like an eternity. A lot of work behind the scenes to get things going here. Deadlock night shift for the Deadlock community. A little bit casting here and there, other games, quick trip internationally, but all it matters is that we are here and we are back for some of the best in Deadlock competition. And
most importantly, Dan, you are looking ever so more swole. I don't know how that's possible, but how you been, man?
Doing good. I kind of I'm like looking for the tab to like shut off the music because I'm just not used to the the jazz. But it's awesome. It's awesome. I hope everybody's liking the new branding, and I'm so excited that we're back.
Yeah, I'm ecstatic that we're back. So let's hop straight into it here. We're going to quickly take a look at the format. If you're new viewers out there, but let's be honest, all of you've been around for a while. You know exactly what happens here in the DLNS. We're going to be having a best one leading into a best three across two different regions to determine who takes home the prize pool and who's the best team of their region. We're kicking things off none other than a star-studded matchup here, ZP of Virtus.pro up against OneWin.
Yeah, and honestly, it's going to be interesting to see how this one turns out. Obviously, back in OneWin Bombshell tournament, VP was able to win it all, even when Abrahams was favored. But you go by the scrim bugs, you go by what's going around here. Really, no one knows quite exactly what will happen here today. A lot has changed in Deadlock in just a little bit of about a month.
Oh, for sure. And Dan, looking over at the North American side of the broadcast later on today, we got Valhalla, who has been putting in work, trying to climb that ladder, North America, up against PKP, which most people don't realize. That's Axe Team, and we'll get to him a little bit later on. But that final boss of Hydra Nation is still ever so difficult to take on, Dan.
Yeah, it kind of seems like Hydra Nation just sort of returned once again to being perhaps the most dominant team with a big gap of skill between them and everybody else. Because we obviously had for a little bit that not being the case, which was something we were looking forward to for a while. But I do wonder, given now that we have a lot of differences in how the game's played, exactly how that's going to shake out. Because there's so much to talk about when we get onto that topic later, just about the meta and the balance.
Yeah, oh man, there's going to be so much to discuss when it comes to that. And luckily for us, we're not here just alone, right? When it comes to DLNS, we want the best of the best. We already got us three. We got the best teams in Deadlock, but we also have some other casters, some other talent who are the best of the best. We're going to be joining us here on the desk. And it's getting very crowded for us. We got Uber, we got Jake, and gentlemen. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen Dan, since in ZP, but even longer since I've seen your two faces. Mitch, how have you been?
Good, man. A little bit of travel here and there. Super pumped, though, to get back into some Deadlock esports. That's the one thing that's been missing from my life. That and your impressive stash, mate. So, yeah, great to be here. I'm locked in, of course, ready to clock in for a big day of games.
Getting my Lash cosplay ready to go. And Jake, I've been seeing you stream some Deadlock lately, man. You're in the zone, ready to go. How are you feeling about today?
You're muted.
You are muted.
Classic. Someone had to do it.
I don't know if you know he's muted. You're muted, sir.
Discord, it's on your microphone.
Oh, a good opening to the show for me. Yeah, welcome back, everybody. The old special, but took me long enough, you guys. Took me long enough. Had a little vacation. I finally grinded to hit Eternus. Thank God. Took me a good couple, like a year now since I've been playing the game. But I'm just excited to get back into the show with all you fine gentlemen. Let's get it going.
I'm curious how many up airs you have on your Warden and your Viscous when it comes to that Eternus grind. But we'll check with you two later on when we get into the first semester today, because it's time to get into the meat and potatoes of what we have to offer you here at the DLNS. And to kick things off, gentlemen, obviously it's a little bit different than what we've had before in prior shows. We are going to be having some crowdfunding coming in from you guys who love Deadlock, who love us, and who love all the teams. And we have had a huge wave of support already coming in from you guys. We'll quickly check in with who our current top leader is at the moment. I already know who it is, because this man is he's from Norway. He's got all the monies, apparently. $500 coming from Average Jonas. We'll be keeping track of this throughout the rest of today, and of course over the next few weeks as well. But the important thing you need to know is every single donation that comes in from this does not go in our pockets. It goes straight into the prize pool for every single week, up to $2,000 to cover the 1K from EU and 1K from NA. And any additional overtime pay that we get will go into the following weeks of shows. But this isn't the only way that you can support us here at DLNS. We also have a Patreon that we did start for all of you exclusive members who want to pledge. And we have a couple of tiers in here, a couple that aren't shown just yet over to the right-hand side. But to kick things off the bat, I mean, $5, pretty much like a Twitch sub, a YouTube membership. It'll get you access to a live post show that we're going to be having after every single week when the show finishes. We'll have a special guest. This week it's going to be AVG, and we're going to be just chatting with you guys. We'll talk about Deadlock, we'll talk about love, we'll talk about how amazing my stash is, and we'll be taking questions from you guys as well. Not to mention you get a special role in Discord, and there's way more tiers beyond that. But we want to find ways that we can give back to you all at home who are loving Deadlock, who are loving the show, and are here to support us. But gentlemen, we get that all out of the way here because it is finally time to head into our first match of the day. We got one win up against VP, and we're going to hop straight into taking a look at VP's roster because, Dan, this roster has been tried and tested multiple weeks, multiple months, very few, I mean, only one roster change, if I'm not mistaken, and have proven to be the kings of EU for such a long time.
Yeah, they're the most steady and adaptable team, it seems like, right at the top, able to kind of deal with any meta, really. Obviously, they've had the hiccups here and there, but generally, they have to be the most stable team in Deadlock. Oh, I almost said it. In the night shift history. I mean, I guess technically, if I said Deadlock by night history, I guess that kind of makes sense because that was the old show name. But either way, yeah, Oberkim. It's so funny because Oberkim is one of the standouts to me just because, and you can pick anybody, but I just love the fact that he plays support, right? I almost feel like I have to give him the the shout out if I'm just saying one name in particular because he's been such a key for VP. But it's been interesting because we're going to talk about how the meta's been shaping up and what who will be maybe key characters on the team as we get into that draft. But yeah, you can't really go wrong with any single player. They're all legends here on this team, all doing maybe best in class in their respective roles.
ZP, I mean, for me, there's a very certain player on this roster that I keep my eyes on. He's been hibernation for such a long time. No, I didn't say hibernation. I said hibernation. It's Mikhail S.
Yeah, there's a lot of it where just going to the chat before the stream started, a lot of people go, like, did we finally get him? Is he going to show up? Is Mikhail S going to be playing here today? And the answer, of course, is going to be yes. Mikhail S is going to be playing here today. So the hibernation is over. The bear has awoken, which, you can say that. I mean, VP, they're bears. It's in the logo. So, yeah, it all pans out. Now, whether or not we see Listic on Calico, probably not. That should be just Abrams, if anything. A lot has changed meta-wise in just the last month. So, we're going to go through that as we get to the draft. But I'm definitely curious to see what the teams are going to be bringing to bear. Things have changed.
Yeah, things have changed massively. Well, one thing that hasn't changed is seeming to have a VP versus one-win matchup to kick off our events. We'll take a look here at the one-win roster as well. And this team, I have to say, ZP, as we'll go back to you for this one, they had an explosive entrance, I would say, into Deadlock. It took a little bit of time for them to get there, but they were dominating things left, right, and center. But then they had a fall off and not able to really reach those heights once again.
I mean, one-win team is really interesting because they're a team where, on a mechanical level, they have some of the best in mechanical skill, right? Especially, that was really kind of known when ABL joined the team, used to be on Aegis Aurora, joined one-win team. It was sort of like the final piece that they needed to get over the hump and, really be a threat. But they just kind of hit multiple metas where things weren't quite working out for them. They might not have had the right read. I feel like they lost a lot of games in draft phase, or they got a little bit too attached to, overdrafting strong combos, but weren't, necessarily strong enough to win the entire game, where, at times it would just be, overdrafting things like Kelvin Shiv, right? So for one-win team, this is always a team where they have the potential to take any game, but I feel like their overall read and maybe just hero pool flexibility is, kind of bit them a little bit over time.
Yeah, Dan, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I agree. Like, it seemed like they overforced their style to some extent, which I do respect it a little bit. But I do think the way that the meta's kind of presumably shifting a little bit now, where playing more split pushes, playing more kind of invasive styles, where because you have less of a spawn frequency on those neutral camps, like these types of things are, I think, more in their wheelhouse. So if they are to try to keep that style going, I think they should find a lot of success. And I think, again, just some of the changes also play into how they like to play the game. So I think the meta's kind of coming around. That's my prediction, at least. I feel like the meta's coming around for them again here.
Well, I think we can even maybe discuss this for now, where we're still waiting for some things to get sorted when it comes to the draft, is what kind of has been changed up as of late times. And one thing that's going to stick out to me right off the bat, CP, is those teleporters now gone from the outside lanes. That is massive. And I think that really punishes teams who lack on that focus of macro and really rewards teams with high mobility and knowing where to place all their pieces correctly.
I mean, it just changes gameplay flow around the map. It means that if you're going to commit to a side, you're a little bit more committed than you were before. If you're going to leave a side more exposed, well, there's a good chance that you're not going to be able to rotate over to save it. So the decisions you make and how you place yourself on the map at the competitive level now matter significantly more than they did before, where, teleporters at their peak. I mean, we had some games, Jason, we were covering where we would see teams continually shift their lane setups for like favorable lane setups in the first 2 minutes, where I think the record was something like 5 or 6 TP uses in the first 2 minutes. So, that sort of stuff kind of being removed as an option definitely changes how you have to approach a game, both in the early game into the mid and late games, respectively.
Yeah, Dan, any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think the way the macro is changing, I really like it, because I think, for example, something we can actually mention here as well is the fact that the troopers run a bit faster as well. So you've got to be a bit more cautious how you manage the lanes, which I think does take us away from, or rather I should say, it punishes your team a bit more if you want to be more heavily grouped. Also, if you're more heavily grouped, you get less experience as well when you get into that kind of 5-6 player, in one lane type of thing. So generally speaking, I think the macro games opened up quite a lot. And in addition to that, in addition to those TPs going away, which is going to help, Mirage have a bit more value with his ultimate, you've got also players, or rather heroes like our faithful magician, who is going to be able to do loads of damage now on those towers, and anyone that's got that spirit damage on those objectives, because those objectives now have no spirit resist. So there's a lot more that I think is going to be possible and threatening when it comes to that split push macro game. So I think that's going to be really interesting, and I like the way that the game's developing from the macro changes they've made like that.
Well, there's a lot more that we can talk about, but honestly, when it comes to Deadlock, one staple that will never change, at least the immediate future, is having a pick, instead of a coin flip, a 1v1 of Mo to determine who chooses if they want first pick or first ban. And that's continuing here as we have VP going up against OneWin, and it's Obi Kim up against ABL here. Gentlemen, patches might change, heroes might change, but this will never change when it comes to Deadlock.
No, and many tournaments have used it, and the players like it. Even at times where I haven't nagged the players, being like, "Hey, we got to get the 1v1 done." It's like, no, we got it done already. In this case, I was on top of it, but also, what is going on here? This is the most just feeling out your opponent 1v1 I have seen in my life. But finally, a parry comes on in. ABL feeling a little bit of the pain here, Dan.
Yeah, and I think, actually, we had a patch change, right, for parries. Don't they do more damage now? If you've been parried, you're going to take more damage subsequently. So even the Mo and Krill 1v1 not able to escape some of these patch changes. And why is this still going on? Aren't we in overtime? Don't we have round limits?
No,
Sudden death for the next punch wins. So it looks like Obi Kim will end up taking it, and I can see that OneWin will be the first pick. So while we get the draft fully ready to go here, one more change that I think we can talk about, as we saw exactly where the 1v1 takes place, it's the Rejuvenator. It has had a massive change here, and I wanted to get your thoughts. I don't know who wants to go first on how you feel like this plays out now. Is there more reward for teams to contest? Is there less reward? How do you feel about it?
Well, it's kind of gone through a few different iterations, right? Where we didn't quite get to get a competitive day with, and it was the 3 Rejuvenators in terms of us casting it, but now it's back over the 1, but it's still changed up. I think that really the heart of the changes here is trying to come to an idea of making the Rejuvenator worth fighting over as it's always been, but not necessarily making it maybe as overpowered as it's been in the past. It's the interesting back and forth that you have in any game with this sort of mechanic of how do you reward players for going for it and was the proper power level. So I just think we're in another phase of Rejuvenator power being tweaked.
Yeah, and Dan, for me, one of the biggest changes we do have the picks event starting is the fact that minions don't become stronger when you get the Rejuvenator. And that for me is huge, because it really can punish the team being pulled in one direction while minions just split push them themselves.
Yeah, and I think it's a really nice change also from the, let's say a team steals the rejuve, then them getting every lane push. I feel like it's a little bit too punishing to the team that's ahead, and it also is a bit too punishing to the team that has maybe a worse mid-boss comp as well. So again, it's it's a change that I like. I think that rewards the team that's playing better overall, and I think it won't just draw out matches that maybe shouldn't be as drawn out, because we've had that, I think, fairly frequently.
All right, well, ZP, one thing I'm noticing off the bat, one thing we should say is we know there hasn't been really a ton of scrims had behind the scenes between a lot of these teams out here. I believe OneWin only came back recently. VP, I've been told, haven't had a scrim yet technically, when it comes to playing on the latest patches. So we're not entirely sure what we're going to see. But one thing we can tell you is we already have a Holiday and a Yamato being taken away.
Yeah, and also we know, like, generally speaking, now Viper did just get nerfed, but one of the big changes in, the month we haven't been, on broadcast is the idea that, Viper went way up in priority. People saw it in their pub games, and they would see it in comp. Now, is Viper going to get picked in the early stages here? We'll see, because you did just have some nerfs come on in, but Seven, of course, has climbed to the top of the heap, but Warden just, Jason, managed to be a mainstay, just very reliable all the while. And you look at this for VP, probably more likely to be taken up by Shariq.
Yeah, Warden for me. I know Jake's smiling from ear to ear. I know John is going to be smiling from ear to ear. So he'll be playing later on today with PKP. But Dan, I mean, we got Warden locked in. We got Seven locked in. Virtus.pro with the first 2 picks, which we saw be very highly contested, actually, of having the first 2 picks instead of the first pick in general. They do secure an Abrams for their second.
Yeah, and it's hard to know exactly what the priority should really look like. I feel like, Pocket's going to be a hero that will be fairly highly in contestation, just coming into these patches. I think any of those hit and run heroes, especially that's a style that 1win likes, but I have heard a lot of people say that Vindicta is still really good. So not too surprised to see the 7 Vindicta, Abrams, Warden. This is kind of very much what we were seeing, I think, before. A lot of the big patches before we. How long ago was it really that we had our shows?
It was about a month and a half. Month and a half. Not even a full 2 months. But what I will say here, I do enjoy how some teams, like, regardless of meta, keep their identity. Like, things have changed since the last things we've broadcasted. Geist clearly dropping a little bit in value, where Geist at one point was just the automatic pick 1 and 2 along with Warden. But VP also, you take a look at what they were valuing. Pure frontline from the beginning, whereas 1win team deciding, no, we want a little bit more on the damage and the kick things off. VP now, though, they've secured 2 really strong frontliners on this side. We need a playmaker. Man. We need to give Mikhail S what Mikhail S is good at, which is Paradox. So, things change, and yet they don't at the same time, is how I'm reading this.
Paradox got a 10% gun damage buff, right? So, I mean, that's
I've been slapped around quite a few times from Paradox, and it's quite tilting, but this is one way to bring Mikhail S back, to gift him a Paradox here, Dan. But we do have our second round of bans coming through, and Pocket going to be taken away by Virtus.pro, which kind of makes sense considering 1win, one of the attributes to the success of Empty Dreams playing Pocket.
I would love to see that, Flammen will get on that Sinclair, though, because, again, Vexing Bolt was already super annoying before, but I feel like it would be even more annoying for the harass, and not just the harass in the laning phase, but also, without the spirit resist now on the objectives, I do feel like he's gonna be one of the strongest split pushers that you have with the TP and everything. So surprised to not see Sinclair get picked up, but maybe we'll see VP go for that right now.
Yeah, I mean, things are wide open. This is kind of exploratory, not only for us, but a little bit for the teams, because we know that scrims have been a little bit frozen out in the last month or so. So I'm not even sure the teams necessarily know what to expect, where, as compared to, say, at times where, say it's week 1win bombshells going on, then by the final day, the meta gets really locked into place. This is a little bit more free-flowing, not only from EU team to EU team, but likely when we go to NA. NA is going to have their own unique take, too. So, for me, I'm just kind of observing, going, okay, what are the teams valuing? 1win team, though, deciding, we still value Bebop and his playmaking ability, especially with Holiday and Paradox off the board.
Bro, give it to me. Give me that overseas Bebop. If we're talking about the KLS on Paradox, give me overseas on Bebop. Like, I'd still say, like, the best Bebop player when it comes to EU when we get into these scrims. But Dan, one pick I'm actually kind of surprised to not see so far, because I've heard such high things about him. Mo and Krill coming in as a 5th pick here for 1win.
Oh, was it Mo and Krill?
Yeah, it was Mo and Krill.
Yes. Okay, well, there you go. It's okay. Yeah, no, I gotta say, it's really hard to take a read on some of like what the value is, and I think it might be a while for the players to figure out too, because there was a lot of slight buffs, like a slight buff to the Talon, because Talon kind of disappeared, for example. Is it enough? I feel like that's the question. Okay, I just did it too, so maybe it is enough. But that's a question, I think, for a lot of these heroes now is was that buff good enough? The 10% gun damage on Paradox does seem like it was certainly enough, but Grey Talon for me was in a more gray area.
Sorry, that was a weird laugh. I saw what you did there.
I didn't deserve a chuckle, but I appreciate it.
You got it.
That was a sympathy chuckle. That was like, we're all in this together. It's one broadcast. We're gonna act like it was funny. But yeah, I mean, going into, I still think GT, a few extra buffs going his way can mean a lot, just because I still think GT gives you a pretty phenomenal amount of presence in the early to mid game. Just the ability to send an owl if you put GT in middle to the left or right and use that to either secure a kill or force people back. I mean, you can't underrate that, but also the problem that GT has just had in the last month or so, prior to maybe some of the buffs coming in, is just he hasn't been as impactful to where teams feel it is worth the spot. But in VP's case, they're saying, yep, we're going to roll with it.
Yeah,
okay,
I think
Furnace
GT's a
coming
good
last.
setup. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm just the host. You guys are the analysts. You guys are the ones talking.
I was just gonna say GT's interesting because sometimes I wonder if is it a pick to take away from, let's say, 1-win in this example, because GT, as you say, in the laning phase with the ult, it's a really, really good setup piece. If you land the ult to get the stun, obviously you can get a hook off that, you can get Mo and Krill's combo off of that. There's a lot you can do off of the GT ult, and that's why I think it's one of the reasons why it's so strong.
Well, and Furnace coming in as a last pick here for 1-win with the Kelvin coming in for Virtus.pro. I mean, pretty tried and true, tested comp for Virtus.pro. Pretty similar for 1-win here as well, ZP.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting to see how this is going to pan out. I mean, for VP, it's a little bit more tried and true, right? Where you're going to have your Warden and Abrams front line, where ideally, too, you're going to, prioritize them a decent amount in terms of farm, but also you're going to have Zergy on the Wraith. And you're going to want to get Zergy super farmed into the late game. So you kind of wonder about how the soul allocation is going to go here for VP. And, I do wonder in terms of people are going to be on the low end of it. And maybe the GT, for example, the GT maybe being used more for early mid-game playmaking as opposed to who you want to channel your farm into. Meanwhile, for 1-win team, I mean, you got to figure a lot is just going to be more so in the realm of, feed the Infernus, feed the Geist. And in particular, I think the Geist actually has to have a really good game because the front line is a little bit weak. If not, right? You can't necessarily expect Mo to have the same level of presence as a Warden or Abrams do at times and just being the core of your front line. But, a well-farmed guy is still one of the scarier things in the game. So, for 1-win team in their lanes, I'm kind of looking to make sure that, the Geist end of things gets off to a good start.
I mean, I am seeing a little bit of a comp develop within 1-win, though. They seem very pick-heavy with the Bebop, the Mo and Krill, the Vindicta. They set up kills and they knock them down. And with the teleporters no longer being there in the side lanes, you have to have two heroes that can split push really well and soak up that farm and make it useful later on, which in Furnace and Seven would be exactly the two type of heroes I see to do that, Dan.
Yeah, I totally agree. I do think it's a really nice comp for that, and also for just just ensuring that they can get the fast clearance on the camps, because the camps are a bit highly rewarding right now as well, because they have less of a spawn time. I think the souls per minute doesn't really change, right, based on how they've managed it. So you get a bit of a bonus in terms of what creep rewards you get for killing them, but the actual time is kind of balanced out there. But one quick thing I'll say is another thing to watch out for the GT is the wave management that you get off of the ult, because GT can use his ultimate, the bird, to clear out waves as well. And with the waves moving faster now, that is something to watch out for.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to head into our very first match, our debut match here at the Deadlock Night Shift. So let's throw it over to our commentators of Uber and Jake.
Thank you very much, gang. Excuse me. Great to be back on the Cursed Apple. It's been far too long. I'm, of course, here with Jake, and it is a game that we've seen a lot of changes here to Deadlock recently. We'll start sort of discussing them as they come up, but for the time being, we've got Listic here, Abrams in that mid lane.
These mid lane trades, especially with Bebop, I think are going to be pretty important in the early game. And it wouldn't be a true match of Deadlock without an opening pause, of course, teams still getting situated. But it also gives us a moment to just chat about the lane setups here in mid. I mean, Bebop in the mid is always a classic, but I like the matchup of the Abrams against him. Even if you do get hooked, that can easily be turned around onto the Bebop. So I'm really curious to see. It looks like both teams have put a very durable mid lane together, one that's just going to try to defend mostly.
Yeah, melee has gotten very interesting of late. Importantly for Abrams players as well, you can no longer debuff reduce the duration of the parry stun, which used to kind of make Abrams terrifying in lane. And that parry stun also amplifies all sources of damage, not just melee ones. So, if you're like Haze or something, it actually gives you a little bit of agency in those sort of matchups here. But already, fair bit of aggression. Overseas going to be appending a bomb to Listic. We have some fever back and forth here already through the mid part of the map. A lot of pick, like was mentioned, the Bebop, of course, alongside the Geist. But then I'll get the Kelvin in the mix now as well. And crucially, Arctic Beam no longer bounces off those neutral objectives at tier 3, which used to be extremely troll. So Kelvin's been looked at ever so slightly recently.
Another character that, received a bit of a nerf is Seven, but I still see Seven looking pretty strong, like one of the better farm users into the game. And you can come off an early kill on the laning stage. That's exactly what you need, especially with the shorter cooldown on that tier 1 buff to the power surge. I'm really interested to see how Empty Dreams ends up getting into this game. I feel like Seven's that hero that if you come off at the start early lane that's looking good, you can really tempo.
Oh, Overseas going to forward. Likely a trade here. Seems to be the case. The Abrams just slipping away. Listic has got the moves. Somehow avoiding that extra level of scrutiny. And Overkim is free to put this damage down on Xenon, making this lane a little bit harder for Geist to have that level of sustain in to a clean first pick, first blood for VP.
Yeah, Listic would love to be, if he can get a couple items, start getting healed back up, and if he can stay alive deep into this lane, that would be a really nice way to get the snowball rolling, especially with Kelvin. You know, you get the first couple kills, you get an early ult that can easily snowball into more, into the very next team fight.
Big pressure here coming on towards this Guardian in this left side lane. Sharik, of course, on the Warden. Already looking, you can pressure a little bit through this lane and try and chase, I think, the side laner there, which is the Mo and Krill. At least trying to keep eyes on them as they go. And of course, so I was just going to say also, like, we look towards the Wraith and the impact she has in the late game. That gun build hampered pretty significantly, but seeing players start to look maybe towards playing around the cards on their Spirit builds a bit more frequently. But hold that thought. Overseas under extreme scrutiny here once more in mid.
It's a great hero to be shutting down early, right? If you can just really reduce Bebop's impact early, I mean, that's what you really pick this hero for, typically, is to tempo out after the early game. If you win your lane, you start ganking, you're maybe one of the more effective roamers in the game with that hook. But if you lose the lane pretty badly and you're not really able to make a difference in the side lanes, that role could very easily be snatched away by someone like Abrams and Kelvin working in concert.
Listic is spending that health just to put pressure down on Overseas. No longer is Bebop really taking over the lane, forcing things like combat barrier early in response. So again, we'll have a double back here, and some of our first few items are going to be picked up. Still frenzy fighting over here as Empty Dreams has to give a heck of a lot of ground, hit with the flask, and is just able to get back behind his Guardian, but pressure definitely still being felt here. Sharik a little bit on the lower side. Zanya putting that pressure down. He's able to duck back away, though. Back and forth.
It's a little too greedy, Zanya, with those light melees. The parry comes in, protects Sharik for the moment, but he's just too low to really retaliate and turn that into a counter kill. I feel like it could have gone the other way, but I mean, you see everyone is taking so much damage in the lanes right now. I think this is the way the game is played right now. So there's just not quite enough regen to go around, and things really do come down to the wire, come down to each shot, each little point of HP, with also, I think, a lot of players just getting better and better at laning and pushing the limits closer and closer.
Listic, though, gets what he came for yet again. Overseas feeling the pressure as well. Listic is going to chase him on down. There's no escape, and there's a clean 2 for 0. Again in the mid. That's going to manifest as the pressure on the Guardian. Arco's flammable. Michaelis caught out. Tries for the assassinate, but Michaelis able to slink away.
Vindicta's a great hero to come off to a hot start, but for VP, this mid lane is looking amazing, right? Like, especially Abrams and Kelvin, you know, buffs are coming up in 20 seconds, right? And I think if you're able to secure both of these for VP, you could start to influence the side lanes as well. But of course, the mid lane tower isn't down quite yet, so you have to be a little careful with it.
I can't believe also we have Michaelis not on the Paradox. It feels like a rare occurrence, especially if you're checking back in with what we used to see in Deadlock Esports. Dimov instead will be looking to try and set up a lot of those picks throughout the mid game. Some rotations here as well. Looks like we've had our Abrams run into the Infernus here midway between mid and right lanes. And I
think
somehow,
he got the gun buff.
Yeah, I don't think ABL wants to stick around for this too much longer. Overseas, though, intercedes an uppercut, bomb, stick to Listic, and then we'll walk back to mid.
Yeah, a bit of harassment. Kelvin holding it down in the mid lane. He should be just fine. Playing low HP as well to minimize the threat of that guy swap. And the hook, not able to turn around quite in time with the point blank hook to pull Demob in closer, but didn't have the uppercut in anyway. I
trolled, by the way. Our names in the overlay were in the incorrect order, so I mistakenly called Michaelis being off the Paradox, but definitely thought that was a bit sussy. So that corrected for you guys now. Checking back in here in the mid lane with Xenon. Still a lot of those early items haven't been picked up. Restorative shot, obviously a classic one. Mystic regeneration. Nothing out of the ordinary just yet. Here's the push up. Oh, concussive combustion already popped here, and for whatever reason, Michaelis has opted to step straight into the fire stream. Still gets the win on ABL, and it doesn't appear that the Vindicta is in a position to follow up.
That's massive that he gets away here. He may be losing his Guardian for this, right? Even with the defense, but maybe Demob gets back in time. Abrams, meanwhile, trading in the mid lane. And I will say one thing about Abrams right now, the current build, I think, is just a very heavy emphasis on Spirit. You get that max Siphon, it's a ridiculous power spike in the early game. Once you get the 5th point, you get that huge damage amp. And if you're life-stealing on 1 or 2 players, you just can't hurt Abrams, man. He becomes just indomitable. And I think that could be particularly powerful going into somebody like a Mo. Like, even if you combo Abrams, if he's got that max Siphon off, I don't think you're killing him.
Also, that Battle Vest means that if he's being topped up by the Frost Grenade and just kept healthy at all times, he's hitting... he's a bit of a bully. He's hitting much harder. Extra damage and fire rate. Here's the hook, though, coming in. Overkill out to walk away. Hit with the bomb, though. Has to dodge away for the Hyper Beam now. Everybody batting the hatches. VP are going to be out of line of sight for the time being.
Still force the Hyper Beam purely defensively, essentially, here from Bebop. Not the best value. The bird comes in. A big hit on both. Something you got to worry about, though, is the fact that Xenon has that health swap available. So Virtus.pro, maybe they want to think a little bit carefully about fully committing into anything. And Flammable with a kill, that's massive. I mean, this Vindicta, talk about a hero you don't want to see snowball. I actually love if we could check out the Vindicta PUV. I'm curious what the build is for Vindicta, but it's a fight going on in the mid.
Yeah, life drain here, of course. Xenon skilling into that one pretty early. Listic low, trying to go for the seismic slam. Good stun. Soul Exchange, though, available and used. Xenon still at a relatively healthy life total, but Overkim is threatening. Will force the guys back into her own territory.
He's already got that Radiant regeneration up pretty early, so that's going to make the guys a lot more sustainable in the mid game, but Vindicta showing up, this should be a quick kill onto the Kelvin. Bomb goes off as well, and I mean, Vindicta, you can really get to a scary level right here early, and it looks like, is that a max snipe by Steve? Uh-oh, so this is really scary for VP. If Flammable gets off to a few more kills, he could easily reach this point where he's kind of dealing all the damage the team needs, and all they have to do is hold down targets for him.
Just a suppressor picked up there as well. We'll maybe touch on that a little bit later. Shriek hits the pop barrier and walk away. Bear in mind, very long cooldown ability, so you want to save those for the ideal scenarios. And a very small soul lead here, picked up by one win, despite not getting that first blood. Pretty active across the map, even with Michaelis rotating in. Here comes the Bebop once more, wasting very little time. And instantly, Wraith has to get out. Zergy, though, lingers a little too long and overseas sends him packing.
Another dive in the mid lane, though. You know, it's just a bloodbath of an early game right now with both teams trading. And I think it's going to be kind of up to the heroes who are snowballing. It's going to be kind of Abrams versus Vindicta, which is kind of an interesting battle. I think once Abrams gets Phantom Strike, this is going to really turn against Vindicta. But prior to that timing, I think Vindicta has a lot of space to work with, where just going to be hard to get on top of this Vindicta. But here you can see Max Saipan. I mean, Mo just has to run, but I'm not sure you're going to be able to get away with this close.
No way. Listic able to chase them down. And with all these battle vests and Enchanter's emblems being picked up, there's so much incentive for these teams to fight early and often while they're at that healthy, life point threshold. ABL is just diving after Dimov here. Looking to pressure down, but has to respect the damage coming back the other way. Dimov obviously will go a little low to the burn damage after the fact. And you'll note, of course, that it's one Guardian apiece here. Owl also dodged, so ABL safe from any form of reprisal with a big shove on the right side.
Lift attempted, but Farace just going to turn back here and grab the tower. I think it's a wise choice from Zergy. Still has the teleport if he needs to get out of this. Would love to get the tower down before he goes out. He's going to die for it. Maybe worth at this stage in the game. A decent trade. Kelvin couldn't quite get the save in time, and this could turn into a bit of a bloodbath. Virtus.pro, I think, losing a lot of players here, especially with Flammable in the fight.
Yeah, Overkim feeling a bit uncomfortable, and Flammable trying to take the fight in close quarters. Of course, the Arctic Beam making it a little bit hard for Flammable to pursue, but there's really nowhere for Overkim to go. Tries to Frost Grenade himself, let a wall jump into oblivion as Flammable cleans him up. Souls, though, looking pretty even now. Continuing to put pressure down in this left side of the map. This player's rotating over. Michaelis brought down by ABL. Now Mo and Krill getting involved. Flammable with a commanding view of the situation. Virtus.pro surely in the back foot there on the left. Listic is still healthy, though. Can hang around, but very much out on an island. Without this TPs sort of in the game, it's hard to sort of reinforce these side lanes that quickly. Listic has to play his life very carefully.
And Empty Dreams, I think, taking great advantage of that space made on the left lane to grab the mid Guardian pretty much uncontested and just really get into the farm game. And this is the dream for Seven, right? You clear a couple of those opening Guardians, you have a lot more space to work with and farm on the map. Jungle camps are up, and Seven's probably the best hero in the game for a relatively early farm of many jungle camps. I mean, powers are just unparalleled, and I wonder if he's going to get Surge of Power on that right now for the farm potential. Curious to see where he takes the build from here. But he has that max Surge of Power, so I mean, it's going to be a huge farm potential. He could clear the jungle maybe much faster than is available to Virtus.pro.
And he's already managed to pick himself up that Surge of Power T3. He's just got some changes, right? With a pretty big increase to its cooldown, importantly. But a slight increase to that duration in general. So operates a little bit differently now. And the ABL is definitely on the hunt here. Joined by Empty Dreams. They are going to combine. Overseas, though, got picked off. Already knocking on the door of this right side Walker. Virtus.pro trying to reciprocate the level of pressure on the left as well. Listic eventually able to chase Xenon down. That is two players down here for one win. And VP trying to successfully defend this right side lane. Overkim going over the top, but that is going to be the ultimate from Zanya. Try and lock him down. Overkim, though, unperturbed. Frost grenades himself and gets back to business. Empty Dreams is in deep trouble. Looking to get chased down. ABL even being ignored as Overkim will not stop.
Yeah, Overkim dancing around with them. Just has to live a few more seconds here to get that Frozen Shelter online, and maybe just getting back to the Walker is going to be enough. So it's a nice defense here from BP to take down Empty Dreams. Bird forced here onto Bebop, who nearly gets caught super close there to getting jailed in. Just doing his best to get as much Walker defense as he can, maybe with the help of Flammable. Their players are low, and they're still trying to turn around for a chase.
Yeah, a lot of damage on this left side Walker here. Flammable might not help the health to linger as long as he'd otherwise like, but the pressure is mounting as VP insisting on this left side objective. Split between offense and defense across the map are both teams, with a bit of a 1v1 emerging through mid. And again, now there might be a chance for OneWin to push this lane up and maybe take the Guardian. Uh-oh, Storm Cloud here on the right side lane, popped instantly by Empty Dreams, who's again, with that surge of power, hitting very hard on the investment in Cold Front. And of course, Suppressor with some utility on board already. This 7 is going to be a nuisance.
Oh, what a dodge. He just double jumped over the Abrams charge. You know, Listic was flanking in from behind, trying to get a cheeky gank off on that 7, but he just evades it with some nice stamina usage. And maybe they can catch ABL. Hopefully, Wraith can get that counter kill, but the Walker is down. The damage has been done here. OneWin team getting that first Walker drop are going to get quite a bit more space to work with, and I think this TP out is going to be good.
I mean, again, that Fortitude's been picked up by ABL. He's really getting running in terms of that soul total in general. Going to make him pretty relevant in these longer engagements. Checking in, of course, with the 7. This is Empty Dreams again, just trying to shove up on the right side of the map. Double up and maybe join up here in the jungle. Obviously, less incentive for one individual to sort of stay in the jungle. Big hook, though, getting caught on the overkill. And damn, he's getting absolutely crushed. Even with the reduction of the weapon damage buff after being hit by the knock-up and bomb Jake, still a lot of burst available from that Bebop.
Yeah, especially with Backstabber. You just can't run away from this guy. Like, he's going to do too much to you. And with the double resist here, I mean, he's just a major threat overseas, even without the most souls. All he has to do really is hit these hooks. He doesn't need the farm to contribute as he wants to in this game. He's got the damage, especially from ABL and Flammable. And it's a good point about ABL. I mean, I'm curious. Let's check out ABL if we can get to the POV. I'm really curious what his items are right now. If he has that rapid recharge, this is going to become pretty scary. He does have that maxed out Flame Dash. So yeah, I'm expecting to see the tier 3 charge upgrade here, and that's going to make him just incredibly hard to pin down in fights.
Or that debuff remover on hand as well. Okay, here comes the final stand. And ABL's going to have to just get some space. Al comes in, stuns him up, going to lock him inside that area of effect for longer. Frozen Shelter coming on down. This is, of course, the attempt of Zanya to try and slow up this pursuit onto ABL. And yep, knockdown here as Zanya tries to get up towards the high ground. Definitely going to be surrounded here, though, by 3 VP players and hit with the paradoxical swap. What the combo, there's nowhere to go. Really delaying the inevitable, what it feels, but in comes ABL yet again, and a good time for it, too. Flame Dash applying that damage now. It's Listic who has to turn his back, but Backstabber is shredding his bullet resist. And Overseas is going to be hitting like an absolute Mack truck. Looks like, though, Abrams is out.
It's wild that this Bebop can bully an Abrams out who has a 3K net worth advantage on him. Huge. I mean, I think Abrams is going to be stronger in a grouped up fight with that Siphon book, but man, that's impactful
as well.
Yeah, is causing problems here already in this Bebop. And, you know, soul lead's starting to develop now. Almost a 10K soul lead for a OneWin team. BP are in territory where if they lose a team fight here, they could be looking at maybe losing walkers or maybe even more dangerously dropping a mid.
Well, Overseas found Listic again, but he wasn't ready for it this time around. Dimov was also going to be there. There's a seismic slam in the direction of the Mo and Krill. Knockup came in. Zanya, though, very, very tanky. Listic, though, more than happy to stay in the fight for longer. And there is an overwhelming number of players here for VP. Zanya cannot hang. Checking back in with our objectives, of course. It was a blue walker that went down. VP lost that right side lane. 5 soul deficit. Well, they've got a power play moment here with 2 OneWin players out of the game and earn turn in potentially on its way.
They can get this earn turn in. That could really even up the soul lead. I think it pretty much is going to put the game to even footing, and ABL already has the lane pressured out. Sharika has ulti if he wants to assist this and try and get the contest out. So I don't think this one's going to be necessarily easy for ABL to stop, especially without ulti.
Also, we know what Frozen Shelter and Kelvin can do when it comes to certain turn-ins. I don't think it freezes the earn turn-in yet, although that's definitely something that has been talked about at length.
That's the contest is coming, though. Everyone's coming from OneWin team. They do not want to give this earn up. They know that that represents their entire advantage.
Hyper Beam at the ready, of course. Assassinate charges there for Flammable. Listic here, mindful of this, would like to be second to the fight if possible. Yeah, there's a bit of zoning. Binding Word comes down. ABL's able to avoid it, but Zerg is going to get up in his face. The Infernus can hang in the fight, though. Fort really keeping him here, but he is absolutely surrounded. ABL not able to get out. There are 6 VP players involved in that elimination. And the urn is absolutely dropped. Empty Dreams in trouble. Shriek heading upstairs, but Overseas gets caught out. And this is not the result the one win we're looking for. VP happy to put the urn down for the time being and throw down. One win get flattened, and this is going to now put VP at a sole lead.
Yeah, and Shriek building this very nice all-around strat here, and Flammable as well caught. That was the Vindicta. That's the one you wanted to snowball most of all, and so the game has been turned on its head. Big advantage to VP now. They might be able to grab a Walker off this. It's going to be a little bit tight, but that Walker's already down pretty low HP. I suspect they're thinking about pushing. Maybe they just don't have the ultimates for it.
Xenon, of course, will be trying to stand guard here for a decent amount of time. There will be a quick reprisal, though, from 1win as they come up those zip lines already. Overseas is going to set his feet and try and defend that Walker. And Listic here just shoving out because losing that Walker right side is putting a large amount of pressure on VP's base to the effect that Listic can't be as involved in things as he would like to be.
Yeah, no Walker push for the moment, but I think VP are happy to get a little bit of space, clear up some of their own jungle here, get a couple of key items online. Shriek is going to have that cultist sacrifice now, and I mean, when his ultimate's off cooldown, man, this Warden is a major threat in the team fights. You don't really have a way to deal with this other than hard kiting him, but some of the characters, I'm kind of surprised ABL didn't go for that fast recharge to get more of those flame dashes online, especially with somebody like Warden you need to kite.
Oh my, okay, we are serious about catching Zanya out here. Listic is going to be there to pick up the pieces. Dimov credited with that elimination. Also, though, Shriek has gone down. Things looking a little bit awkward on that left-hand side of the map. As VP might look to make a play for the right Walker.
Yeah, Michaelis getting some nice farm up here on the Great Talon. You're pretty much always going to be a glass cannon on this hero. You're always going to be at risk of getting caught off and punished, but if you can stay out of range from that Mo or stay up in the air, it's kind of hard for Vindicta to catch you.
Listic has the seismic slam out of this one. Not a fight he wants to hang in, even with Fort, even with Berserker. Didn't feel like they had a good reason to stick around. Shove the wave up over towards that right side Walker, and now heading back towards the middle part of the map. Do not even think about mid-boss. It's about some of those boons getting picked up. Now Zerky has to hot foot his way out of that right side of the map. It looks like Shriek was quite in position to assist him. Now they will have a VP sort of concave here on the left. Keep eyes on that as the rotate across from Listic is happening.
Let's look at that fortitude. Oh, that's so tragic. Just barely missed the fortitude regen. And everyone is here with the 8 from Mokrill. And this is a strat from 1win team, right? These are the types of fights they want to create, playing around that combo from Xenia, hooks from Overseas, setups from Flammable. And ABL, I will say the thing about, Infernus and 7, these are the heroes that they spike very, very late into the game, but they just get stronger and stronger. When you get up to that 40k mark on either of these heroes, the spirit damage is going to be out of control. And VP are a little bit light on stuns. They have a few good options, but there's like Unstoppables online for Empty Dreams. He's going to do essentially whatever he wants.
Frozen Shelter is going to freeze mid-boss in place for the time being. In theory, buy VP some time, but the down to 5 Listic still not here. The rejuve will go down. And again, it's 1 crystal that you punch multiple times to give rejuve buffs out to the rest of your team, and they're being tracked on the left side of the map at the top of your screen. So those credits, once those credits run out, the buffs, of course, that you gain individually will expire. You don't get any minion buffs, as we talked about on the desk earlier, but you get that soul, what's that, soul revival effect, where you will respawn where you died after a short delay, as opposed to a quicker respawn back from your base.
Pretty massive grab for 1win team. If VP went for the split, I think that's like sort of maybe the best option they had, with Abrams just not being there, not being ready to contest, and the Kelvin Dome buying more time for those split pushes to do their work. But in the end, I still feel like you'd rather be 1win here. You have a lot of room to create, to take objectives on the map and fight around these triple respawns. And having everyone on your team have the buff means that there's no way you can like pick off a player without the buff and then try to team fight from there. So VP, they have a bit of a soul lead, but this won't necessarily be an easy few minutes to navigate. I feel like 1win team, this is exactly what they want to do, right? Playing for pickoffs, and now they just are much harder to punish.
Yeah, I mean, they turn the power play into an urn as well. And bear in mind, like, the effective value of, a 15% max HP, 50% fire rate is pretty significant. Might make up for that deficit. Combo connected, and that was nice stake coming in from that top side by Flammable. Again, locking Listic in place. Jake, he wants to be mobile and get across these lanes, but he's consistently being caught out by 1win, creating these openings. And I mean, Virtus.pro virtually just have to give this ground and try and tank it around these walkers.
Yeah, the combo is proving to be a real problem for them, right? Like, you know, Abrams, I think he's pretty good at striving a lot of damage and slows and still escaping, but the combo is just undeniable, especially with the amount of follow-up that you have from people like Infernus and, you know, even the Bebop to assist with extra CC. So Xenia, you know, just on cooldown with this combo, running around, hunting down players, and the lead has evaporated. It's completely even, and OneWin still have a couple minutes to use these rejuves.
Shriek caught again, dangerous. No combo available for Zanya, but it doesn't seem to matter. So much shred, of course. There was even Bebop getting involved, and toxic bullets plus backstabber, pretty nasty for those heroes that are trying to be tanky. Al catch on to Overseas, able to give it a little bit of ground, though immediately in goes Amo and Krill. Stormcloud even being added. This is exactly the fight that OneWin wanted, and it's where they wanted it to happen. A lot of impact there for Empty Dreams, who was only getting further ahead in Souls, and this Frozen Shelter only delays the inevitable, it feels. Flammable with some sharp shooting from that high ground. Michaelis and Overkim looking worse for wear. The Paradox brought down. A VP are down to 2 active players. This is very dangerous.
Man, Empty Dreams, that heal bane, it's so powerful on the 7, and this should be at least one set of base guardians if they want it here on this left lane. Maybe they're going to look to go stack for the mid walker, but yeah, I'd love to see a split objective take here with grabbing those base guardians, opening up, accelerating the zip lines, getting some slots up, and giving ABL looks like a lot of this farm in the mid lane.
Pressure on the base guardians, and there it is, that extra slot, which is pretty timely for OneWin, as those inventories are definitely getting clogged. And yet another walker take here. This is going to take that Soul lead and expand it pretty drastically. And Virtus.pro don't feel like they really have an opening to intervene. Lost all their walkers. Base guardians getting hammered down. The right side, they're down to half health. Not great.
Yeah, and so much farm to be taken on the map right now, especially as Rejuve expires. You know, 30 seconds on the Rejuve, you're not going to force a fight for a OneWin team, but by the same token, VP just can't really force anything, and there's really nothing for them to do on their side of the map. I love this Delta split from OneWin team, just completely taking all the farm out of the map, completely splitting. They know that VP aren't really in a position to force an engagement, and they're just going to expand the soul lead, get up to their next large item, especially somebody like Seven is going to be really out of control here. I think he had enough money for Boundless or Spirit Burn, whichever direction he wants to go. Maybe even just the Unstoppable. At this point, there's an argument for OneWin team to just start playing really safe with some of their cores and just getting the defensive tools online. But for ABL, it's going to be an escalating. VP are going to really struggle in the team fights now.
And that's just the way it crumbles. They turn that Rejuve buff into a big team fight win, where they get that AoE Stormcloud in. Escalating exposure, of course, is pretty scary when it's in the hands of the Infernus. That stacking Spirit amp is pretty bloody good. Al being thrown out here. Just the look. Some scouting here from Demon. Not a whole lot to see. That's an Infernus. Disregarded. He's just trying to get some information.
Little UAV.
Okay.
Just get the lay of the land here. Make a little space. I mean, honestly, you're sort of reduced to that for VP. You're sort of reduced for speculative plays. Curse comes up on Bebop. Oh, that is going to be such a problem.
KLS. Torana trying to get on away, but Zanya makes short work of him. OneWin again in a position to take a huge advantage once more, and VP scrabbling to try and get back inside the base. Frozen Shelter being thrown down, but Zanya is well and truly inside of it. A little bit awkward. That had to be dropped. Zanya will duck away now for the time being, but there's still more fight to be had. And OneWin happy to shut the door in their face. Overseas a little extended here, and this thing is an opportunity, just having picked up the Mercurial Magnum as well. Has Sharik. Seismic Slam can't get away. That Flame Dash AoE from ABL will account for the Abrams.
ABL is considering going deeper on this fight. A lot of low players for VP, but a 4-on-4, I think that's actually 2 for 2 is a winning trade here for Virtus.pro, given the soul disadvantage. They're sort of happy to reset this. However, consolation prize for OneWin team is going to be grabbing the buffs on the map, and a Spirit buff on Infernus right now this is illegal. Man, this Infernus is going to be so hard to fight, and he's just getting further ahead on the soul front. I mean, this Infernus is going to become unkillable with, you know, like 1 or 2 more green items. Already has 3k base HP.
Yeah, I mean, that infuser is definitely getting out of hand.
They're going to drop his urn with the bird, I guess, but I just don't know what.
Just pick it back up.
What this really accomplishes, right? It's just slowing down. Hold on, though. VP, though, collapsing on this. Maybe they're going to try and use this as an opportunity to punish.
Yeah, one with 2 players down aren't exactly in position to intervene, but they're not really fast enough. ABL is simply going to go and get the job done by the looks of things. That's an urn turn in, and that's the soul lead that's getting out to 12k. Flame Dash will get him away, and Overkin will have to satisfy himself with the dregs.
And that's sort of the story of this match right now for VP. They've got to just bait some over-aggressive move, and Kelvin is a tough go, and Furnace is going to get the stun. Oh no, Warp Stone away. Trap comes in, but I mean, ABL almost wants to bait the fight on himself. Look, he's not losing HP right here. This is an impossible trade.
Yep, Infuser popped. He's getting all of that lifesteal, and he's absolutely going for it. Flame dash in, and he's chilling.
The Scourge from Mo Krill put on him as well. The hook, and this could be game here. VP are getting completely team-wide. One winner at completely full resource as well. Listic probably just hiding in a closet right now. I doubt One Win are aware of the position, but he's not really going to be able to get back to base. And even if he could, not much you can do. And oh no, a mid-boss spawn. It's up to now. Big decision for One Win team. Do they try to drop Patron? Do they go for Shrines? Or do they just back for the mid-boss? I think you could justify either decision right now. They're going to do both. Probably the smartest move of all, right? Get the Shrines down at least. And Abrams, oh no, Abrams dying after that long delay. He's going to be off sync with the team. They're going to get the mid-boss. This game is over, Mitch.
Yeah, they're absolutely good. Mid-boss, obviously, all well and good to take, especially with 4 rejuve buffs dropping after the fact, but we're unlikely to get there here. Patron about to be knocked and dealt with. Most of VP still 10 or more seconds away. One Win might be happy enough just to take everything and get on out here, but it's going to account to a good 30k or so soul lead, and there's rejuve buffs just being passed around. That's right, guys. There's one more. Xenon going to make sure they have that one. And now 4 minutes of hell for Virtus.pro to dig in.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough one. You might see one more back off from One Win team just to buy a last item, get all their souls on the map to just ensure impact. But this defense is going to be nigh impossible. I think One Win team could just hard in for the Patron. I guess your one hope here is for a cheeky save from Kelvin. And maybe that's something that One Win team are going to be a little worried about, is like Warden and Kelvin turning around to fight inside the throne. A little bit scary there.
Oh my god, the Leech and the Boundless Spirit in hand for the 7. Empty Dreams is going to be nuking, excuse me, as well as ABL. So One Win, they get their, excuse me, the souls on exactly who they need to. Echo Shard also into the hands of Flammable now. Keep an eye out for that one, of course. The cooldown on those abilities, very, very important. And this is Virtus.pro desperately trying to keep a foothold on this game, but another combo sets up a pick. This is all to plan for One Win. A composition that lets them dictate when and where these fights happen, and they have abused that maliciously over the course of this game. Zanny a little bit low, Xenon though low, but has that soul exchange available, and Virtus.pro are going to get stuffed into the trash compactor, such that One Win happy to dance inside their base. A little bit of revenge for what happened in the One Win bombshell. It's best served cold, as we know, and One Win will advance to take on our champions.
Yeah, I love the way One Win played around the draft they set, right? You know, the mid game, I think, was back and forth. We saw some big team fights out of Sharik with the Warden ult, Abrams coming off to a hot start with Kelvin in the mid lane, but they just played around the pickups. They were patient, they looked for opportunities, and there was just quite a few Mo and Krill pickups in that mid late game where VP just couldn't quite get the full on team fights they were looking for. And Mitch, I think you might be right about the direction the game has been pulled without those teleporters, right? Maybe playing a little bit more individualistic, a little bit more, small group playmaking is the better modern style of Deadlock, and I think One Win team had the right read on that today.
Yeah, again, we've had, I think, metagames in Deadlock where deathballing has been encouraged, especially, when those TPs were active, but obviously you can rotate between those lanes still pretty effectively. And we noticed that, Listic was trying to be active and trying to have impact in multiple of those lanes, but it was read into really effectively by One Win, whose team excels at, picking off those individuals and snowballing those kind of advantages. It was an uncontested mid boss. They were able to take 2 walkers off the back of that, and by that point, their carries are so far ahead, the 7 and the Infernus, that there is just nothing VP can do constantly. The Mo and Krill combo to lock down anyone. It doesn't matter. They're happy to go after the Abrams. Even Listic wasn't remotely tanky enough for them to second guess what their target of engagement would be. Feels like the way things washed out, it was pretty easy for One Win just to roll over the top of VP.
Yeah, you got to give a lot of credit as well to Flammable on the Vindicta, who was, I think, really the key force in the early game, because as strong as 7 and Infernus got towards the late game, you think that just doesn't happen. It doesn't go that way if Flammable isn't coming into some of those early game fights and turning things around, stabilizing the game, slowing the game down. Yeah, he's not going to hit the same late game power spike, but he's the one, I think, making that game at least winnable in the early stages, keeping it relatively in contest, where mid lane was a problem, right? You could have easily seen that game get out of control with Abrams and Kelvin just running people down. And I think it was Flammable who kind of held the line there for quite a few minutes in the early game and got them to that point where, okay, they have the better late game. They've hit that soul point where, ABL just takes a fight and doesn't lose like 1 tick of HP with all the lifesteal he's getting.
Yeah, absolutely disgusting stuff. We're going to go to our desk, of course, break down our first match here with 1win advancing to our best of 3 match. And we'll see you guys later for the next games from EU.
I have to say, by the way, Uber, your shirt is fantastic, and I like how we both have matching zits on our forehead. But what a game here with 1win taking back what seemed like an inevitable defeat up against Virtus.pro for so many weeks in and so many weeks out. They take the victory here, and honestly, gentlemen, as you heard the casters talking about, ABL just became chunky on that Infernus, being so hard to deal with that Virtus.pro had to throw 3 players and a frozen shelter into a closet to deal with him.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was really interesting how it panned out, because to me, it felt like a strategy where 1win team by the draft was a little bit more in on the early game, and then they gave up their early game lead. They had that disastrous urn fight where, ABL essentially got mugged in the closet and didn't get a whole lot of help. But he was so far ahead on farm and was able to just otherwise take good one-on-one engagements, otherwise have efficient farm, and got to the point where he became an unstoppable monster. And the VP approach of focusing more on frontline, more evenly balancing their soul allocation, actually fell in face of the 1win team idea of just feed the Infernus and 7. And it was really interesting to watch this play out, because with a little bit of a lack of data over the last month, I didn't know what to think until we just saw the results in front of our eyes.
Yeah, I think, we definitely saw that scary moment. I agree. I think when we saw that urn fight, it's like, 1win, they don't want to take these group death ball type fights because that's where VP have the edge. But it seemed like they were like, we kind of have to take this one, and it didn't go very well. And so at that point, I'm like, the game swung now. The edge went away. But still, I think the macro play was really nice from 1win, and I think they really showed. I think it's towards maybe like the 20-25 minute mark where we saw there was 2 towers or 2 objectives left, the mid objective, the walker, and the left lane as well. And they got such a good pick by just doing this classic macro move. 1win threatening that mid walker, drawing across players. They left ABL, who's obviously stacked, to be able to find a pick on Sharik, who wasn't really aware that ABL was lurking there. Felt like he was safe in the left lane, just trying to do wave management. And then there's a quick switch up into the attack onto him with the rest of the team to assist ABL. They get the pick into the walker, into another walker, and from then on, it's just great control of the rest of the game with that advantage. So just really well done from 1win, showing that their strategy works.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense, right? If you have these 2 really strong individual players like ABL, like Empty Dreams, that we talked about so many times when it came to playing like your Pocket for Empty Dreams or your Motto for ABL, which really got them going initially back as the 1win name, they could carry matches. And when you do things similar to that with the way they're able to feed those souls specifically to those 2 players, of course they can carry out games like this, and of course they can create such a lead that they can snowball from there. I think the really interesting part that happened was when we had 2 simultaneous pushes out of VP on the left-hand side for the walker and on the right-hand side for 1win on the walker. And ZP were mentioned while we're watching this, split pushes have really changed. Like, you have to commit to them now because you just can't teleport over and defend.
Yeah, I mean, you are pretty much all in, and you have these moments where, okay, what team is going to be a little bit better suited to smaller scale battles? And one of the things that really helped VP was that ABL, over the course of the game, you had to bring a player advantage to deal with ABL once ABL had gotten up about 5 to 7k souls. You couldn't just do a 1v1 and have it be okay. It was situations where ABL would see Sharik alone in lane and force that into a fight where other members of VP had to rotate over. And while you're rotating all these disproportionate resources to deal with the Infernus, you're giving up power elsewhere on the map. And it is a change in how you have to sort of apportion your resources with the teleporter change. But also, again, I think it's interesting to me, just the idea that, Deadlock, and all the time we've watched it, it really oscillates between what roles you want to put your farm behind. And it was just a month ago that the meta was, you feed the Geist. You make the Geist your most farmed player. And in this case, Xenon was playing way more of a support Geist, if anything else, not really taking as much of the farm, playing a backseat role to getting the Infernus and 7 farmed, and it actually worked out. So you saw the clash of prioritization between these 2 teams, and based on the results, 1win team had the better read on the meta.
Yeah, and I think that's, to be fair, with the amount of scrims that we know have been happening, it's a bike going by, I apologize, he's heading into his night shift right now. we know there hasn't been a lot of scrims happening. So I think the meta, what we're seeing now, or at least the current iteration of what we're seeing, I think that's going to change in a week or two once teams start getting back in the mix of things, constantly scrimming against each other. But what we see now of like those individual carries working out really well for 1-win, at least at the moment. And Dan, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but that first Rejuvenator that we had come in for 1-win, I think that was the big like catapult they needed to get themselves back in the game. It kind of kept themselves equal when it came to souls. It gives them a large increase in value with the 15% fire rate, the 15% health, and the 20% spirit damage. And that's when they got those 2 walkers and really started to take control of that game.
Yeah, it's interesting because although you don't get the mega creeps and so on, those buffs are pretty significant, and it allows you to very precisely decide to dictate the pressure, and it puts a situation on the opponents where it's actually very hard for them to really challenge at that point. So it's kind of like a similar effect as we had with the buffs before that you got from Rejuve. But I do like this a bit better because I think it opens the team up to being able to be more flexible with how they want to apply pressure off of having those buffs. So yeah, really, really cool, honestly, to see this in our first matchup. The 1-win VP rivalry is never ending.